Hey guys, it's Yurika, your host of the Mindful Life Summit. Today, I'm so excited and honored to have Dr. Rick Hanson on our show today. Rick is a psychologist, senior fellow of the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley, and a New York Times bestselling author. His work has been featured on BBC, CBS, and NPR. Rick has spent decades helping people turn everyday experiences into lasting happiness, love, and inner peace, hardwired into the brain. Specifically, Rick is known for his work in neuroplasticity, so I would love to talk to him and pick his brain on that today. So welcome, Rick. I appreciate you so much for being on your show. Like I said, I'm super honored and I'm grateful for you to spend this time with us today.
Well, I feel honored to be invited, Yurika, and it's my pleasure, honestly, to offer whatever I can to the people listening or watching.
Thank you. So can you tell us, what is this whole neuroplasticity? Like people have been hearing it on the summit here and there referenced, and since you're so famous for your work on neuroplasticity, can you just break it down a little bit?
Sure. Well, it's a very simple idea that's in front of our noses all the time, which is that our experiences can change us for better or worse. So if a child learns to walk instead of crawling, the child has learned something. If an adult learns how to, let go of old trauma or pain, or to become more mindful or happier or more patient, they've changed in some way. And that psychological change, that mental change, requires an underlying neural change. That's neuroplasticity in a nutshell. It's an old idea. What's new is understanding scientifically how massively it's happening inside the brain and what the perils and opportunities are. On the one hand, stressful experiences really affect us. Even small ones, irritation, frustration, worrying about stuff over and over again, beating yourself up, that changes the brain for the worse. And it's very vulnerable to being changed for the worse because it has a negativity bias, scientists call it, that helped our ancestors stay alive in horrible situations. Once in a while it's useful today, but for most people, the negativity bias of the brain makes it like Velcro for bad experiences. They stick to us. But Teflon, for good ones, even though ordinary, small, beneficial experiences, feeling a little strong, feeling a little calm, feeling a little connected with your friend or your cat crawls in your lap, or learning something new about how to be more skillful with your partner or your crazy boss, those experiences tend to wash right through us and we don't grow from them. In the moment, they're nice. In the moment of therapy, in the moment of talking with a friend, in a moment of mindful meditation, it feels good, but does it actually change you? Does that state become a change of trait that is enduring, that you carry with you? And what my work is a lot about is what's called positive neuroplasticity, the process of inside your own mind, taking charge of the brain change process so that you help the painful, difficult experiences to be felt as they flow through you. You let them slide off you. And meanwhile, many, many times a day, you take in the good. You slow down to receive into yourself something helpful and beneficial, so you fill yourself up over time. And you become stronger and happier and more loving and wiser as you go. In effect, from the inside out, we could talk about how to do it. You change your brain so that it's like Velcro for good experiences and Teflon for painful, harmful, stressful ones. It doesn't mean you're denying them. This is not positive thinking at all. It's actually building strengths inside to deal with the challenges of life. But many, many people, when they start trying to take in the good, immediately observe how rapidly they tend to run on to the next thing before the current thing has time to sink in.
Yeah, that totally reminded me of, like you were saying that we are so Velcro for the negative, right? An example would be you had your annual review with your boss, and they're like, "Oh, you did this great, this great, this great," and then like 10 things great, and they're like, "Oh, the one area that you can improve is this," and then you walk out of the office thinking like, "Oh man, like this is the one thing I need to improve," and that's what we remember.
Yeah.
And so like So what you're saying is the positive neuroplasticity is that we can almost like swap that, so we can really sit in the good.
Yeah, learn from the negative, but
Mm-hmm.
keep it in proportion. And
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile, it's kind of simple. People listening might ask themselves, what is it that you wish you felt more often? Or what is it that you wish was more established in you as a habit or a way of being? Do you wish you were more patient? Do you wish you had more self worth, more self confidence? Do you wish that you were not so irritated by many things routinely? Um, then the question becomes, how do you grow?
Mm-hmm.
And if you let me cough for a moment, as I've told you, I'm at the end of a cold, and if I start talking, I start coughing. So get ready. Here comes the cough. Ta-da! Right?
Even
Anyway.
my cat in the corner, when you coughed, she was just like, huh?
Oh, very good. Oh, yeah. I love cats, right? Okay. So, yeah. So the two-step process, if you want to know, right? Here we go.
Yeah.
Da-da-da. You want to know how to change your brain for the better, which means changing yourself for the better a little bit every day. Okay. Um, two steps. First, you have to experience whatever you want to grow. You have to experience a moment of calm, mindfulness, happiness, love, generosity, patience, commitment to your exercise program, whatever. You got to experience it. You got to get the song playing in the inner iPod. Great. But if you want any kind of lasting healing, lasting change of being,
Mm-hmm.
you must turn that experience, step two, into a physical change in your brain of neural structure or function. There must be a change in your brain. Otherwise, it was a nice moment, but
How?
there's no value in it. It didn't benefit you for the long term, right? It just washed right through.
Yeah.
And it's very poignant, actually, Eureka. A lot of the time we feel the poignance, our experiences passing through us, and we don't internalize them into ourselves. So, how do you do the second step? There
Mm-hmm.
are multiple things that help. I'll list three. Any one of the three are useful. All are based in research. And I've written a lot about this. It's freely offered on my website. You'll have a link to it. There'll be a gift. People will see some of the things that I do. There are, important details, and people can learn more about this in my books and whatnot. But I find the big three that really, really help things uh, to to change you for the long term. One, stay with the experience for a breath or longer.
Mm-hmm.
When you're feeling calmer, when you're feeling good about yourself, stay with it for a breath or two or three. Be kind to yourself. It's intimate. Receive it into yourself. Stay with it. Second, feel it in your body. Don't just have it be an idea. Oh, my boss said something nice. Feel it in your body. Oh, I realized that this friend of mine is never going to be a great friend. They're going to be an okay friend. They're never going to be a great friend. And I need to realize that. I really need to realize that. Feel it in your body. Whatever is useful that you want to grow, okay? Feel it in your body. Third thing you can do that will increase the conversion from state to trait. So there's a lasting physical change that you carry the benefits with you wherever you go. Focus on what feels good about it. Focus on what's rewarding about it, what's pleasurable or meaningful in the beneficial experience, which increases the activity of dopamine and norepinephrine in your brain, these neurochemicals people may have heard about. And as their activity increases, the experiences we're having at the time are protected more for long-term storage, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might sound kind of complicated, but we all know how to do it. We just need to slow down to receive the good into ourselves, to let it land, and to kind of give ourselves over to it so it becomes more established in us. And we become more that way over time. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. It's a phenomenal process. And it gives you the power. It's
Yes.
like learning is the strength of strengths. It's the superpower of superpowers because it's what we use to grow the rest of them. By learning, I mean social, emotional, somatic, spiritual, attitudinal learning. The important learning really matters. If you get good at learning,
Mm-hmm.
you get good at growing every day.
Mm-hmm. I love
Then,
that.
yeah, then every day is full of opportunity to let go a little of the crud. That's learning. And to grow a little more of the good. Pull the weeds gradually in the garden of your mind and grow flowers. gradually in the garden of your mind. You have the power to do that every day. We all have the power to do that every day. And at the same time, no one can do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
We have to take that power for ourselves every day. But when we take it, no one can defeat you inside the inner temple of your own mind.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important that no, like owning that power, because when you feel empowered, like you have the control. And you're right, like nobody has the control in our minds, right? Only we do.
That's right.
So that's very empowering.
It
Yeah.
is wonderful. It was so hopeful. And for me, I realized this when I was a teenager, actually, and it was at the bottom of things in my life. I was feeling terrible. We cannot change the past. Even the moment is what it is, but we can always grow a little from here. It's sort of like in a business, what's your growth curve, right? What's the trend line? Are you trending up or down? And what you and I are talking about is how people can take their lives and turn the trend upward. So there's a healing, growing, learning curve in their life. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. What would you advise somebody who's just like, yeah, I understand it. That's great, but like I just don't even know like where to start. Like how
Yeah.
like they're
I'll give
like,
you the
yeah,
5 minute challenge.
let's hear it. Yeah.
All right. 5 minutes,
Yeah.
that'll change your day and it'll change your life. Okay. And this is Coach Rick talking. I mean, I'm a really nice therapist and all that good stuff, very compassionate mindfulness teacher. But also, I've become kind of, as teachers do, some, more direct. You got to do it. You got to
Yeah.
do it. Okay. That's what my teachers say to me. This all sounds great, but it's worthless if you don't do it. Okay. 5 minute challenge. A handful of times every day, as you go through your day, look for some authentic good experiences of one kind or another and slow down for a breath or longer to let them sink in. You're walking down the street and hey, I kind of like it. It's a nice day,
Mm-hmm.
nice people. I'm going to just feel grateful here. Or you have your cup of coffee. Well, I like my coffee. Or your cat. You have a great cat. You look at your cat, makes you happy. You feel happy. Uh, you get something done. Finish a tricky email, finish the dishes, a moment of satisfaction. Slow down half a dozen times a day to let the good land and kind of just marinate in it, savor it, sink into it. Or maybe you realize something important about yourself or how to be. Slow down to develop conviction in it. That's one. That'll take about 2 minutes. That'll take about a minute a day, maybe 2 minutes a day. Second, have one thing. Second, have one thing that you're trying to grow these days. What's your superpower you're working on these days? What's the strength that you're trying to develop? What's one thing that if it were more present in your mind would really help with your crazy life or your tough challenge or your parents or your ex-boyfriend or the physical pain you have in your body, the illness you might have? What's one thing at least you're trying to grow these days in particular? Target it, like feeling worthy or growing in your sense of patience, or it could be a spiritual insight like recognizing impermanence. You're trying to grow that in yourself. What's one thing you're deliberately trying to cultivate as you go through your day? And then look for opportunities to feel it and internalize it. That'll take another minute or so. And then once a day, maybe just before you go to bed, maybe in the morning when you first get up, take 1 or 2 or 3 minutes to reset to what I call deep green, the green zone of feeling fundamentally peaceful, contented, loved, and loving. This is the resting state of the biologically, it's our resting state. Psychologically, it's our resting state. Most of us do not spend much time at home. We live with a lot of chronic inner homelessness. And it's so important, especially in our busy, crazy, stressful lives, to reset to a feeling of calm, peacefulness, contentment. There's an enoughness, a satisfaction, a gratitude. It's enough. You don't need to chase for more. It'd be nice to have more, and you feel already there's enough, and your heart is warm. There's a sense of connection to others. Those three things: calm, contentment, love. Take a minute or 2 or 3 and just rest there. All that will take 5 minutes or less. And if you do it, it'll change your day, I promise you. And if you do it every day, like 3 days in a row, you'll feel really kind of different. And if you make it a way of life, after a week or two, your friends will start saying, wow, are you taking some new vitamins? What's for you? Is there a new man in your life? Look at you.
All right, guys, you guys ready for this 5-minute challenge? And this is what I've been saying the entire summit, right? Like mindfulness is not, you don't have to say like, I'm going to put aside 1 hour to practice mindfulness. It starts to become we become, it turns into our being, right? Like we become it because we practice it, and all it takes is 5 minutes. Like, let's start with this, guys, right? Like 5 minutes a day. Like, see how it can really start to change and transform your life and your relationships. Like, I am such a believer of this, and this is why I feel so passionate about it. So thank you so much. I'm definitely like, I hope everyone takes this 5-minute challenge. I'm going to write about it too. So,
That's great. And if I can just add, it has these like secret bonus benefits too. Because when you
oh,
take on the 5-minute challenge, it changes how you look at your day, because then you start looking for opportunity,
mm-hmm.
right? And it also gives you a feeling that you are active. You're not helpless any longer.
Yeah.
You're more like you have a sense of agency, or I put it, you're like more like a hammer and less like a nail. That changes also how you think about things. And also you learn, it changes your attitude toward yourself, because you have to have a kindness toward yourself. You have to be on your own side. You have to treat yourself like you matter. And that's really important, especially if other people have not treated you well or like you really matter. So there are all these wonderful bonus benefits in the 5-minute challenge, and they're all free.
They're free. That's amazing. Like, wow, I can transform my life. You mean so I don't have to pay for like therapy and
You can do that as well if you want to. And this is not a substitute for deep work on certain things,
yeah.
but what a wonderful way to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great.
You mentioned this briefly about stress, right?
Yeah,
So I would love to talk about stress because I think this is one of the things that people do. Like, they're one of the biggest challenges
yeah.
that people face, and their reaction to our like stressful like situations or people or in our environment. And like, there are some studies that say that when a person reacts to something in the environment, like there's only a short period of time in which the chemical process happens in the body. Whether that's like, there's something called like a 90-second rule, like that the chemical is only released for like 90 seconds. Or, like you were saying, that cortisol takes like 20 minutes. But I think the underlying research is that the actual chemical thing that happens in our brains, in our body physiologically, is very short, right? So my question is, why is it that when we're going through something stressful, if our physical response is only, anywhere from, 1 minute to 20 minutes chemically, why does it feel like we carry that stress for like days or weeks or months or years, right? Like this huge burden, and we constantly are feeling that.
Right. This is complex. So I'll try to be very direct and simple and practical. Okay. So first off, if we are in conditions, if our environment is continuously stressful, whatever is happening during that 90 seconds keeps happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? If your job is continuously really fast paced and you're being interrupted all the time and there's pressure on you from other people, that's continuous, even if in any moment there's a kind of a surge neurochemically that then fades, but then the next surge comes, the next wave comes, the next wave comes, the next wave comes. It's like standing on the ocean. If the waves keep coming, yeah, each wave is quick, but there's wave after wave after wave.
Mm-hmm.
Second, as the brain evolved, the brain has tripled in its size in just the last several million years. Our tool manufacturing ancestors a million years ago, roughly, had brains just half our size. The brain has gotten bigger. And as it's gotten bigger, a key aspect of that bigger is the build out of circuits in the midline of the brain that are able to do what scientists call mental time travel. We can imagine a lot of futures. We do affective forecasting. Would I rather have Chinese food tonight or Thai food? I kind of like both, but I'm easy either way, right? What would I rather do? Would it go better if I talked to my friend like this or like that? Oh, okay. But we also ruminate about the past. We go into the
Mhm.
past, all right? So research shows that the average person, their mind is lost. They're wandering 50% of the time on average. That means that for people like you who are in the present moment, much of the time, there are a lot of people that are just lost in space 80% of the time, driving the truck next to you on the highway. So it's kind of scary. All right, so that's partly why we ruminate. We keep
Yeah.
going over and over. That's one of the great benefits of mindfulness is that it's like a circuit breaker that stops the rumination. And there's a lot of research that negative rumination is a major, major factor of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, anger, addiction, all kinds of things, and just a lot of ordinary sorrow. So that's kind of the why of it. Also, the body. Um, if something happens that's upsetting, stress involves negative emotion. If
Mhm.
we're excited and enthusiastic and we feel confident and determined, and maybe around the edges, we're a little rattled, but in the core of our being, you know, we feel okay, we're going to deal with this challenge. That's not stress. Stress involves negative emotion, right?
Mhm.
Or, for example, if we feel frozen and immobilized and helpless, we might look outwardly calm, but inside we have a sense of fear and despair. That's also stress. So the key to stress is negative emotion. If
Mhm.
we're passionate, if we're enthusiastic, if we're confident, we're dealing with stressors, but inside our core, we don't feel stress.
Mhm.
That is a very important distinction. And a lot of what my work's about, and I can just tell you how to do it, is to grow strengths inside, mental, psychological resources, nothing magical, old fashioned things like calm, determination, patience, sense of meaning, sense of purpose, gratitude, compassion, self compassion. Grow these strengths inside so we can deal with stressors without feeling stressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And second, when you do experience that your needs are met, like when you drop into deep green for that 1 or 2 or 3 minutes just before you go to bed, you gradually hardwire into your body, especially your brain, this underlying feeling of strength and contentment and calm already. So that when things happen, you meet them with an underlying sense of inner peace. If we think about people who are models for us, like the Dalai Lama, or maybe your kindergarten teacher, who no matter what craziness was happening, just always seemed kind of calm and happy and humorous inside herself, let's say. How do these people do it? Well, one way they do it is they hardwire into themselves a feeling of enough already. So if we do these things, then when stress happens, when stressors come at us, we don't feel so stressed by them.
Mhm.
And I think that's very, very important and very, very helpful.
Yeah, I love that you like distinguish the difference between stressors and stress, and that we feel stress because there's a negative emotion. That means that we are assigning the negative emotion to it.
If I can say sometimes, and there's um, we have to tell the truth about our own experience.
Hmm.
As you know very well, that's part of the wisdom of mindfulness. It's to be honest with
Hmm.
ourselves. And
Hmm.
this is what it's like to be me in this moment. And
Hmm.
when certain things happen, we are designed to be upset by them. Right? There's physical and emotional pain. So drop a brick on your foot, the foot is designed to feel hurt.
Hmm.
If someone suddenly betrays you or is cruel to you or dismisses you, or you counted on someone to do the job right and they don't do the job at all, and then they blame you for something else, it's natural to be upset about it.
Hmm.
The question then becomes, how do we grow strengths inside, like inner shock absorbers, so that over time, the things that happen don't bother us so much? They might be unpleasant, but they don't need to bother us so much
Hmm.
in the core of
Hmm.
our being. And the other question is, over time, after we're knocked by life, how quickly can we recover? Like a sailboat with a keel, when the waves come or the winds blow, it gets knocked, but then it recovers quickly. And what you and I are talking about is how to hardwire a deepening keel in your inner being. So when the winds come, you come back fast. That's what we can develop over time. So it's normal to be irritated by things or frustrated or sad or worried, right? The question becomes, though, can you help yourself over time have less of that initial impact, and can you recover more quickly? And along the way, alongside, next to that sadness or worry or anger, what else is happening in your mind? Is there also happiness? Is there also well-being? Is there also inner peace? To me, this is a legitimate opportunity. It's authentic. It's not pie in the sky. It's realistic. And, in this life, it's an extraordinary opportunity to have this life, right? Why not make the most of it and help yourself grow and be happy as much as possible, and also grow the good inside so you have more to give to other people every day.
Yeah. So you listed a couple of the things. Are those like characteristics of resilience, that the
Yeah.
12 vital inner strengths in your book, Resilience? Rick talks about like how to cope with these challenges and how to pursue opportunities and find lasting well-being in this challenging world. He talks about like these 12 vital inner strengths. So I think you listed some of them, and definitely if the listeners are interested in more or reading more about it, like read Rick's book. It's called
Well,
Resilience.
thank you. If I can just say two things that just seem really curious to me. To me, what I'm trying to talk about is common sense. In other words, first point, it's been understood in all the teaching stories. Just think of the stories that we care about, the Star Wars stories, or the Lord of the Rings stories, or traditional teaching stories. They very much involve people dealing with challenges who draw on inner resources of various kinds. Magical powers, deep understanding, friendliness toward other people, knowing how to, fight off bad creatures, whatever. We draw on strengths in much the same way, just to deal with life. I was a Boy Scout back a long time ago, and we're supposed to develop, virtues like patience or being respectful, right? These are things we develop. This is a very traditional idea. How do we do it, right? How? How do we actually grow strengths inside? So that's my first big idea, which I did not invent, and it's common sense. And I would ask people who are listening or watching, what strengths would really help you if you had more of them these days? What are you trying to develop in your children or your friends or your clients or your patients or your students or the people you supervise? What are you trying to develop in them, right? It's a very fundamental idea. We need to grow strengths inside. The other very, very fundamental idea is that in life, we are faced with conditions, things the way it is. There are conditions outside ourselves that we're faced with. A bunch of dishes in the sink. A person who is irritating and annoying a lot that we work with, right? We deal with a condition out there. Our cat has a problem. We need to take the cat to the vet. We need to do something about the condition outside ourselves. We really understand that. But what about the conditions inside your own mind? I mean, I'm pointing at my head. I could have pointed at my heart. What about the conditions inside your own being? The background of sadness or loss or anger or addictive craving for one thing or another, or feeling that you're a second-class person and no one's really going to love you. Those conditions. Well, much as it's understandable that we need to deal with conditions outside us, everybody gets that. My question is, what are the conditions inside your own being? What's the wallpaper of your mind? What's the inner atmosphere of your being? What are the conditions inside your mind? And what are you doing about them? What
Mhm.
could you do about them? To be active and resourceful in your relationship with them, much as you are active and resourceful and enterprising in your relationship to external conditions.
Mhm. Yeah, such a such a deep question. I
Yeah,
think I
and
need
it
to
takes some,
write. I think I need to write in my journal, like, and like spend time with that one.
yeah, and it's again, I'm trying to emphasize the common sense of it.
Yeah.
You know, if there's an external condition, like honestly, I was teasing my wife a little bit. I was saying, honey, um, when there's a mess outside you, you deal with it, you go to work on it. And yet, if inside your mind you keep worrying about the same thing again and again, and there's no progress with it. You know, if it's useful to worry, okay, worry. I worry about stuff sometimes, and then I try to solve the problem and stop worrying because I don't like to worry. It's unpleasant. And long term, it's not good for the body. And it literally will take days and years off a person's life, chronic emotional stress. So, you know, I was teasing my wife, you know, honey, when you have an inner mess, why don't you do something about it? You know, why, it would be like there's a mess of in the kitchen. We don't just stand there and stare at it. Okay, maybe we do for a while, but then we eventually go, okay, I got to clean it up. People are coming over tomorrow. You know what I mean? We do something about it.
Hmm.
Much the same way, and we do it one dish at a time. You know,
Yeah.
one dish at a time. You know, we're realistic, and it takes a while. Maybe we stop. Maybe we put on some music, like I do, to do the dishes. You know, to kind of have some fun. In much the same way when there's a condition, a mess, a problem, or an opportunity inside our own mind, we need to engage it as well.
Hmm. I love that you said that, because I think when it's external and it's tangible,
Yeah.
and we can do it, like we see the progress. But
Mhm.
sometimes when it's like internal, it's not so tangible. We're not even like aware of the mess that's going
Yeah.
on in our mind, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think this is where we can practice mindfulness, is to really take a step back and be like, what is, like you said, the wallpaper in my mind? What is the mess that's going on right now, and how can I start to clean it, like one
That's
thought
right.
at a, even one thought at a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And to use the analogy a little bit longer, sometimes we realize, wow, you know, it's like a dirty floor. You know, a lot of dust. There's a lot of cobwebs and dust and crud on the floor. I need a broom. I need a broom. So what I need to grow in my mind is a broom, you know, something to sweep it and organize it and clear it away. So then we realize, oh, okay, my first step to deal with the mess inside my own mind, or the condition, whatever it might be, is to grow a tool, is to develop a strength of one kind or another that then I can bring to bear for whatever that thing is that I've got to deal with here. So, for example, maybe you're a person who's very self-critical. They're always feeling like they're falling short, or they're afraid of falling short, and that puts a lot of pressure on them to do that. And they realize, you know, I need to grow more of a voice or a
Mhm.
feeling inside me of acceptance and nurturance, like a good coach who's not mean, who
Mhm.
says, you're doing great. And, you know, we could improve a little bit here. No
Mhm.
big deal. Let's keep going, right? I need to grow that inside my mind to deal with the mess or the condition inside my mind, right? So then you look for opportunities in the process I've described. Two steps. First, experience that sense in your mind of encouragement, or being with a friend who's encouraging like that, or a therapist, or you just imagine someone who's like that, someone who's accepting of you, who supports you. You know, moments where with people in your life you feel supported, you feel they're friendly, you feel that they appreciate you, even though you're kind of a goofball some of the time, you know, like that. And then after you experience that, slow down. Stay with it for a breath or two or three. Feel it in your body. Focus on what feels good about it. So 10 seconds at a time, a minute at a time, you're growing that inner resource in your mind who then can help you deal with the mess there.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like growing a broom, and then you can grow a mop, and then you
Yeah,
can grow like all these different tools that we can really start to use.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all these tools and giving us advice and wisdom, Rick. So yeah, just I'm so grateful for your knowledge and your wisdom and for being with us today.
A
Um,
pleasure.
for the listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Rick, his information is underneath this video, and he is offering a free gift. 3 things that we can start doing, and you can click on the claim my free gift button and it'll route you right to his free gift.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Rick.
Eureka. Thanks to everyone. I hope this was useful.
Yeah, and everyone else, I'll see you guys tomorrow.